Being so young and seeing that for the first time, it scared the crap out of me. It really, really did. And so, yeah, that's an amazing answer from Wallace. I totally agree with you 110%. 111. So, question number 2. How has Rambo affected you personally? Tell us of the impact Rambo has had on your life. So, Wallace writes in the answer to this question, "Yo man, you won't like this. Almost nothing. I am not the kind of fan that wears Rambo shirts or anything else. Honestly, I forgot Rambo until the 4th movie was released. So many years later, I remembered liking the 2nd and 3rd movie as a kid, and I still liked very much the 1st movie. But oh my god, when John Rambo came out, I watched it thinking it was a masterpiece." And yes, Wallace, I agree with you there. It's a big, in my eyes, it is a big masterpiece as well, in my eyes. So he continues to write, "It took me back to those feelings I had when I was a kid, and deeper, You have to know that I saw it in one of the worst periods ever in my life, and almost got tears on the cheeks in the end, because I was completely taken by that movie. As was I, Wallace. I too actually had tears in my eyes, especially that brilliant ending when the score kicks in, when Rambo's looking down on all the destruction, and he looks at Julie Benz, and she, I had a little bit of a chuckle when Michael raises his hand up to Rambo, yeah, that was very teary, that brilliant Brian Tyler music too, playing Sarah's theme. It was just very, very powerful. It was very overwhelming. So Wallace goes on to write, "I thought, man, it's just like that. That is the truth. This movie is real, so fucking real. It took me to hell and back, a complete 100% masterpiece." And I like that he answers that with the hell and back, because in season 4, we're going to look at the hell and back of Rambo and the early sketches of Rambo 2008 coming to fruition. So he goes on to write, "It was then, after I got out from the movie theater, that I understood that the Rambo saga is the most misunderstood movie saga ever. If not only a matter of Rambo himself, but of Troutman also. And most of all, it is a matter of the Vietnam War." Which is very true. This giant, enormous ghost that covers and ruins everything. It's the only movie ever made that really makes you understand what the Vietnam War really made to the USA, like the impact, by showing you what it made Rambo into. That's the meaning of all the Rambo movies. And that's a really deep answer, and I could not have said it better myself. He just took the words right out of my mouth. Okay. Moving on to question 3. What made you want to create Rambo Year 1? Wallace answers, "This is fun. Hard to believe, but fun. I didn't want to write it. Yes, I didn't choose it. It was Year 1 that chose me, really. People say a lot of things about writing, and the most are wrong or outright lies. Professional writers are the ones that say more lies during interviews. They love to lie about writing because, that's the way the show business works. Writing is a matter of exercise. a real writing workout that you have to make years before you finally become any good. Well, Wallace continues, there are many exercises you have to do to become and stay a good writer. One of these I used to do was to write short tales about characters from other books or movies. You know what, Wallace? I did that too when I was coming up in writing. I did a lot of that, like tons and tons and tons of that. Especially whereas movies were concerned, I wrote like a lot of follow-up pieces to a lot of movies and short stories that way. And when you say that year one chose you, I can understand that too. Much like this series we're working on now with RAMBOMANIA, I really do believe that it chose me. That, I started off trying to do it, choosing what to do, but in the end I realized that, well, not in the end, because we're nowhere close to the end, but, going through it, RAMBOMANIA really did choose me after all. Let's see, where were we here? Okay, yes. One of these I used to do was to write short tales about characters from other books or movies. These short tales I used to write were not meant to be read by anyone but me. I'm with you on that one too, because I was very shy sharing my writings with different people. I think I've only shared it with maybe 10 trustworthy people that I know. Okay, where were we here? Oh yes, Wallace continues. 5 years ago, I wrote a short tale regarding Snake Plissken, for example. It's about the ill-fated mission where he lost his eye. Anyway, the trick is that the more difficult the character, the more useful is the exercise for the writer that makes it. And it works. Trust me, it really helps you to grow up in your mind, or to grow the scenario in your mind, which is very true. And then Wallace continues. So one day I thought, what about Rambo and Troutman? There are no more difficult characters than these two. Every single word they say is heavy as a stone. There's nothing they do or no word they say that hasn't or haven't a very important meaning, which is true. They're very to the point, and I find that, like me, Matt, I find that they really, cut to brass tacks. They really address the situations at hand. So, Wallace writes, he gave it a try. I started with a very short tale telling about the Special Forces Selection Program. It was the very first short tale I ever wrote about the Rambo world, and there isn't any Rambo. Anyway, in the short tale, the rookies are suffering during their usual workout, while Troutman is giving Yoda-style lessons regarding the Vietnam War. I know that told like it sounds like really stupid, but it wasn't. It was quite the contrary. It was awesome. It was sad but strong indeed, almost violent in his speech. And you could feel all of Troutman's rage against the enemy and the war. And it was one of the best short tales I ever wrote in my life. And I didn't even know why. It took me a lot of time to understand why it was good. You have to understand that I always read or saw something I could find about the Vietnam War. I didn't exactly know why, but I always found it really interesting. After a couple of pages written about this Troutman scene, a shortcut exploded in my mind, giving fire to something inside of me, something big. So I had a better idea for another short tale, but longer. Then a third came out, even longer, then the second. That's it, I thought. I found something big. After some months, a short novel came out, and then a second complete book. So fast, I could barely believe it. And that's how it goes, Wallace. When you're onto something, as you know, when that love is there, it will just grow and grow, faster than you even think possible. So Wallace continues, I have never written anything so fast in my life. The second book told the first mission of the Baker team, and it was awesome. Trying to imagine what 8 Rambos could do, and you will understand what I'm talking about. At this point, I knew I was writing very good, so I started doing searches. And that's true. When you look at it, a lot of these guys who were brought into the Green Berets, they were like mini squads, sometimes 4 or 5 guys at a time, jumping into very hostile situations, using sometimes only very minimal tools. Kind of like David Morrell wrote in First Blood, jumping into places to live for weeks with only a knife during training. And it's very true, because these guys, I remember hearing, if you listen to the Guts and Glory documentary on the Rambo box set, it even talks about it. It talks about how they had to have extensive training to jump into a locale, join up with the indigenous forces around there, be able to teach them and learn from them at the same time as everybody in that squad had to know everybody else's job. And if someone fell short, fell ill, injured, or unfortunately passed, then the next person would be able to take it up where it was left off. They knew exactly what they were going to do. So, very good. I love that Wallace researched all of this, because he really, really, really makes it his own, and he really tells the truth. He doesn't sugarcoat it. It's really just all there. The horrors of war. That war is not heck. That war is hell. So, question number 4. Where did you come up with the idea for Rambo Year 1? Wallace writes, from SOG Special Observation Group. Soon I discovered how much the Rambo saga took from the real SOG, the Viet Cong traps, the jump scene using bow and arrows, and so on. I could write a book about that. I knew I could. I had the material. I had a lifetime of interest in military strategy, shooting, ballistics, and other related things. I had the knowledge. I knew the rules. I could create a story about a bunch of brand new characters no one would have ever laughed about, which is true. When you read Wallace's work, I gotta say that he knows the score. He's writing it as a tactical mind game between good and evil, and between each opposing force. He really writes it in that format. Much as David Morrell, I heard in an interview with him, I think it was Artie from Books and Nacho, said that he could compare the writing he felt at sometimes to the user's guide to weapons and ammo. And I know that when I'm reading Wallace's work, I'm brought to that same kind of feel, that he knows what he's talking about. He did the research on the weapons, more importantly, how the weapons were used and what they could do. And I found that reading his strategies, it came across more smart, and you wouldn't second guess it. Like, it really came across as just something that was well thought out, well researched, and at the same time holds the levity, the weight, and the drama of the situations